This is 7 News Adelaide with Gertie Spurling.
Good afternoon. A Northern Suburbs mechanic's been targeted in a wild $250,000 raid. Thieves spent more than 2 hours at the business, stealing tools, car parts, cash, a ute and keys to customers' cars. One of them used a metal pole to break in.
Literally, they've put us out of business. Like, most of our workers can't work. We don't have any tools.
Another workshop's also been targeted, and what the suspect took has left the owner heartbroken. We'll have the exclusive details in our bulletin at 6. Emergency crews spent more than an hour rescuing an elderly woman injured while hiking south of Adelaide. The 85-year-old was with a walking group in the rugged Onkaparinga River National Park when she dislocated her shoulder. SES and CFS volunteers rushed to the woman's aid. She's since been taken to Calvary Hospital in a stable condition. Hills residents are being promised a faster and safer commute to and from the city with upgrades to 3 major bottlenecks. $190 million will fund a new dual-lane roundabout outside Mount Barker High School and expand the Mount Barker and Verdun interchanges. The government says the upgrades will also mean locals can evacuate faster and more safely during bushfire seasons.
One of the most important part about a bushfire management plan is deciding when to leave or when to stay. All right? And we don't want congestion being a factor in making that decision.
Construction's due to begin next year. Police are hunting a knife-wielding teen who robbed a Coles Express at Valley View. The suspect stormed the Wright Road service station around 8:30 last night and stole cash. Police searched the area, but the bandit had fled. Today's beta Birdwood has attracted an unlikely entrant. Tesla's futuristic Cybertruck looks somewhat out of place, but organisers say it was a spectacle worth lining the streets for. Here's Madison Stanley.
It's been quite the spectacle for car lovers who've spent the day reminiscing at the beta Birdwood. But this year, the rally looked a little different, with Australia's first ever Tesla Cybertruck joining the fleet. It stood out from the mix, surrounded by vehicles made long before its time. Thousands flocked to Birdwood to admire the futuristic piece of machinery. Normally, vehicles have to be at least 30 years old to participate. But organisers say specialty models are an exception, particularly ones that represent what could become the future for automotives.
I'm not sure if it's the future, but it's certainly elements of it.
That's what it's all about, isn't it?
It is,
cars.
yes.
The cars and the passion.
It's a celebration of motor vehicles, regardless of what they are and how new.
For the history buffs, it was an explosion of collectible vehicles. From vintage head turners to muscle cars, there was something for everyone.
I just like to enjoy watching them. A lot of work goes into them.
It really draws the whole community in, and that's one of the wonderful things about it.
The events had a record turnout this year, with more than 100,000 people lining the streets of Adelaide to enjoy the show. We'll have plenty more on the action in our main bulletin at 6.
Sydney put on quite the show for King Charles and Queen Camilla as hundreds of adoring Australians turned out to meet their majesties. It was a busy morning for the royal couple, starting off with a church service in North Sydney, followed by a bicentenary event for King Charles at the state's Parliament House. On every occasion, the royals received a warm welcome, setting a precedent for the coming days.
Good afternoon. Well, it certainly wasn't your average church service here in North Sydney this morning. King Charles and Queen Camilla dropping by and delighting hundreds of fans who had lined the streets here all morning for their chance to catch a glimpse of the royal couple. King Charles stepped out in that lovely clad-coloured suit. Then it was Queen Camilla's turn to catch the crowd's attention, sporting a beautiful mint dress paired back with neutral accessories. I have to say, Queen Camilla and King Charles looked extremely excited by the public's reaction, taking the time to exchange a quick wave and smile before heading into the service, which was officiated by the Archbishop of Sydney. But it was the moments after the service that will be most memorable for so many in the crowd, the King and Queen re-emerging and taking the time to once again greet as many people as possible. We caught up with some of those who are taking home some very special stories stories. Take a listen.
I shook both their hands. They were so gracious. And I said to King Charles, welcome to Australia, welcome to Sydney. And he said, you're very kind, thank you.
I'll never forget it in a lifetime. It was very, very special.
We are very excited. I'm here with my daughter of 11 years old, and we are coming from a French island next to South Africa.
Among those who met the royal couple, a group of 3 young children who handed over some special gifts, and they were bursting with joy.
I was so excited.
Why were you so excited?
Because it was his first time.
And what did they look like?
They looked very old.
The true power of the royal couple was really in the faces of the crowds. So many were just so excited that the King and Queen took the time to say hello, exchange a handshake, and have that small moment that means so much to so many people here today. Many of the fans in the crowd tell me they'll be following the King and Queen's itinerary right through Australia, which means you can expect to see thousands of people turning out to the Opera House on Tuesday when the King and Queen make yet another public appearance.
The King and Queen will visit Canberra tomorrow, where the public will get 2 opportunities to catch a glimpse of their Majesties. Rob Scott's in the capital with the details.
It's a packed schedule for the King and Queen. They're not here for very long, only about 6 hours or so, but they have a lot on their plate. They fly in about midday and then head to the War Memorial, where the King will lay a wreath in the Hall of Memory, the Queen a floral tribute. And it's there the public will get their first chance to greet the pair. Their Majesties will then move on to Parliament House, where they'll receive a ceremonial welcome on the forecourt before attending a reception in the Great Hall hosted by the Prime Minister and his fiancée, Gertie Hayden. Royal watchers will get another chance to say hello as King Charles and Queen Camilla leave Parliament on the way to Government House, where the Queen will attend a discussion around family and domestic violence in Australia, hosted by the Governor-General. The King, meantime, will hold an audience with the opposition leader Peter Dutton and a separate meeting with Anthony Albanese. From there, he'll visit the CSIRO National Bushfire and Research Laboratory, meeting with scientists and firefighters. Their Majesties will then regroup at the National Botanic Gardens, touring the grounds, planting a tree and mixing with school children and volunteers. And that will mark the end of the Canberra leg of the royal tour.
The Israeli Prime Minister says he will keep going until victory after his vacation home was targeted in a Hezbollah drone attack. Benjamin Netanyahu was not at his northern Israel home when the drone was fired from Lebanon. Around 180 projectiles were launched across the border overnight, while Israeli forces continued further attacks of their own in southern Lebanon. The airstrike comes just days after Israel killed Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar. Passengers on board a flight that saw a bomb scare at Sydney Airport have relived the hour they sat on the tarmac. 154 people were on board the Air New Zealand flight when a security incident was reported. It sparked a massive emergency response, but passengers say they were left in the dark.
And then I searched that up, like NZ247 security incident. I was like, whoa, what are all these news articles? And that's how I actually personally find out.
Didn't really say anything till the last minute. So when we were sitting out there on the runway, we didn't know what to expect until it came up all on social media.
Authorities are remaining tight-lipped as to what sparked the incident, but a search of the aircraft, luggage and passengers found nothing suspicious. A 5-year-old tourist has been left with serious head injuries after being hit by a rock. As Jordan Quinn reports, the child's family was on board a popular Queensland tourist attraction when the incident unfolded.
Good afternoon. The 5-year-old boy was with his family who had been visiting far north Queensland from Japan. Around 4 p.m. yesterday, they were travelling down the famous Kuranda Scenic Rail heading into Cairns when a rock was hurled through the train window, hitting the young boy in the head. He suffered serious injuries, including a fracture to his skull and bleeding on the brain. He was taken to Cairns Hospital but has since been transferred to Townsville University Hospital, which specialises specialises in treatment for head trauma injuries. Now, this would have been extremely frightening for his family who witnessed the entire ordeal, but thankfully the little boy is now in a stable condition and is expected to make a full recovery. Police are taking this very seriously, throwing significant resources behind this investigation. They are now trying to track down the person responsible for throwing that rock, who is believed to have been in the area of James and Law Streets. Detectives are appealing for any witnesses or anyone with information to come forward to bring justice for this little boy.
A 50-kilo cake for a very special elephant who's on her way to SA. Those pictures are coming up. Also, Vice President Kamala Harris unlocks some star power in a bid to try and sway voters. An Italian island underwater, the race to rescue residents. And would you be brave enough to ride on this zombie train? Zookeepers at Auckland Zoo have created a 50-kilogram cake for a very special girl who next month will be headed to Monarto. Burma, one of 5 Asian elephants to be relocating to South Australia, is celebrating her 42nd birthday with a Lamington-inspired cake topped with carrots and coconut shavings. Staff say if there's one thing you can say about Burma, she loves her food and we cannot wait to meet her. With just over 2 weeks until the US election, Vice President Kamala Harris is using star power to try and sway voters. Meantime, Donald Trump spoke at length in Pennsylvania, a state where the race is too close to call. US correspondent Miley Hogan reports.
16 days out from the US election, and both candidates are really focusing their time on those crucial battleground states that will likely decide who will be the next US president. For the Democratic nominee Kamala Harris, today it was about star power.
I got a feeling, can y'all hear me all right?
At a rally in Detroit, pop singer Lizzo rallied for the vice president. Early voting started in the city today.
And I think Mrs. Commander-in-Chief has a nice ring to it.
She wasn't the only celebrity helping Harris. At a rally in the battleground state of Georgia, Usher asked his supporters to back the vice president. Kamala Harris addressed voters, talking about abortion, the economy, and took aim at her rival's mental fitness for office.
He's becoming increasingly unstable and unhinged.
Donald Trump held a rally in Pennsylvania, the most pivotal battleground state where the race is too close to call. He spoke for over an hour, addressing a number of topics, including golf, the border and the economy.
The word tariff is the most beautiful word in the dictionary.
He repeated his false claim that the 2020 election was stolen and criticised his opponent.
We can't stand you, you're a vice president.
11 million Americans have already had their say, casting their ballots early.
The Italian island of Sicily has been inundated with heavy rain, causing flash flooding and landslides. Firefighters used a helicopter to rescue residents trapped on the roofs of their home as they tried to escape the rising waters. The rescue showing the sheer amount of water emergency services and locals were dealing with. A cliff also collapsed, sending large boulders tumbling onto a main road. Zombies have taken over the carriages of a bullet train in Japan ahead of Halloween. Brave passengers paid around $550 Australian for the eerie experience, which was played out by some very convincing actors. The 140-minute ride marked the world's first moving haunted house and was inspired by the 2016 South Korean action horror movie Train to Busan. And Japan isn't the only one celebrating spooky season. A mall in the Philippines hosting a scary pet Halloween party. 30 people and their freaky 4-legged friends dressed up for the occasion. The grand prize going to 7-year-old poodle Harry, who strutted his stuff down the catwalk as a tarantula. Still to come on 7 News Sport with Tom Wilson as the Crows women look to consolidate their spot in the AFLW's top 4. And Tim Zoo's bid to become a dual world boxing champion has ended in brutal fashion.
Good afternoon. In the AFLW, the Crows are leading Collingwood by 13 points during the second quarter. It was a defensive start for both sides before Adelaide converted through Anne Hatchard and Caitlin Gould.
Best 3 goals last week against the Giants. Caitlin Gould comes in, makes no mistake, and the Crows have a couple.
A head clash to Chelsea Randall sent the former skipper to the bench to be assessed. A win for the Crows will push them into third. Well, the 36ers have plenty of work to do against the Jack Jumpers at the Adelaide Entertainment Centre. They trailed by 8 points at half-time. In the second quarter, Montrezl Harrell injected some life.
Harrell fighting for it and getting it to go. He'll go to the line to add one more.
At half-time, the Sixers trailed 39-31. It's their lowest first-half score of the season. One of the all-time great motor racers produced a classic today. Marc Marquez slipped on his own visor tear-off and slipped out of the top 10 in a near incident-free Australian motorcycle Grand Prix. The six-time MotoGP world champion charged back to win a duel with championship leader Jorge Martin. It's his 62nd Premier Class win at fourth at Phillip Island.
Brings the thunder down under.
Aussie 19-year-old Senna Aegis finished third in Moto 2, but celebrating his first podium didn't go as well. Late in the Formula One sprint in Austin.
Oh, he must have touched, surely. That was almost the end of the race for both Leclerc and for Norris.
Lando Norris went on to finish third behind championship leader Max Verstappen, who won for the first time since June. Qualifying ended early when George Russell went into the wall, handing Norris pole position from Mad Max. Oscar Piastri qualified fifth. And Tim Tszju's quest to become a dual world boxing champion ended in total shock. Even with Father Kostya in his corner against Bakrem Murtazaliev, it was clear Tszju still had mental scars from his bloodbath against Sebastian Fundora. The undefeated IBF super welterweight champion knocked Tszju down 3 times in a brutal second-round barrage.
How is he still up, Tim Tszju? He's not now. He goes down hard.
Tszju courageously kept getting up and was floored for the 4th time in round 3 before younger brother Nikita threw in the towel. Tim was still in shock well after the fight.
What's going through your mind?
What just happened? Like, what did I get hit with?
The third round TKO ruins plans for a Vegas showdown with Jamel Charlo and leaves Tszju's career at crossroads. Brutal loss there, but we'll have all the results of the Sixers and the Crows women, and Cornsy's in for his trade review of the Power.
OK, looking forward to Cornsy's take. Thanks, Tom. The mercury is set to climb in the city tomorrow before a mild change arrives. I'll have the details next.
Australia, this week on Sunrise, a surprise door knock you'll never forget.
Matt and Nat from Sunrise.
Hi.
Come on out.
I recognise the faces.
Plus, a Sunrise presenter scammed.
One of our own impersonated, tricking their family and friends.
Also, Kate Winslet is coming to Sunrise. Plus, a $20,000 luxury holiday up for grabs.
Australia, New Zealand or Fiji, the destination is your choice.
Be watching to win.
Start with Sunrise.
Mike has our main bulletin at 6, and Smitho, what have you got?
Well, Gertie, some truly exciting news for cycling enthusiasts. I know you're one of them. We have the exclusive details of the return of the famous community ride in the Santos Tour Down Under, so don't miss that. Also, exclusive details of a massive cloak and dagger heist and the lengths the crooks went to. Massive improvements to traffic flow at Mount Barker announced, and not a moment too soon. And who could forget Westlake's storm in a teacup? In flashback, the loopy furor when light towers were originally planned for Footy Park. Hard to believe these days. It was a real storm in a teacup. So there you go. We'll have all of that.
Thanks, Smitho. Looking forward to that. To the weather now, and it was a warm and mostly sunny spring day across much of the state. In the city, after an overnight low of 9 degrees, we hit a top of 25 around 4 o'clock this afternoon. Right now, it's still 24. Around the country, warm and partly cloudy in Brisbane, windy in Sydney, sitting on 19 at the moment. Cool in Melbourne, just 17 degrees there. Hobart, a touch chillier, and showers are developing in Perth. Currently, it's 20. A cold front's approaching southern Western Australia, and that'll trigger the wet weather there. That system will reach us later in the week. For now, our highs driving stable conditions. It's looking hot and mostly sunny in the far north tomorrow, reaching 37 in Coober Pedy, 35 for Roxby, Maree and Port Augusta. Morning fogs a chance about the eastern slopes of the Mount Lofty ranges, with areas of high cloud extending across the west and south. 30 for Port Lincoln, 33 for Port Pirie, 31 for Renmark and Murray Bridge, 29 for Nuriootpa, 28 for Victor, 27 for Kingscote and Naracoorte, partly cloudy, and 26 for Mount Gambier. An extreme fire danger warning's been issued for the West Coast, with strong winds forecast about the far west and upper West Coast. In the city, down to 15 degrees overnight, 30 is the forecast top. It'll be a mostly sunny day with cloudy and cooler conditions forecast on Tuesday. But I'll have more on that in the full forecast tonight. That's all the news for now. Smitho will have all the day's top stories at 6 o'clock. Bye for now.
The 7 News app will give you the news you want every minute of every day, including breaking news alerts. Download the 7 News app now.